I suppose one of the most difficult things facing people in my situation today is the future prospects of employment.
I think some of the problems in the industry are that, the worry of not being able to have a job at the end of the degree and, just all the qualifications that you've earned, if they're actually worth anything.
It's a bit disheartening to know that you've worked really, really hard for the last 3 years and that there's not necessarily anything to go on to.
The main problems that I'd face would be gaining experience before being able to get a job, because many jobs want experience before they set you on.
From mine and my business partner Dave's point of view, we both had pretty crappy times getting through our apprenticeships, both from the point of view that we didn't always get the hands-on experience that we had to do, and then at other times you'd just be thrown in at the deep end and expected that you knew how to do something because you'd been taught about it on your apprenticeship, but you'd never actually done it.
Well, the problem is, there's nowhere near enough work placement out there. I got lucky to work with my dad, but unfortunately for the other 10 people in my class, they haven't got nowhere to go.
So when it comes down to it as an employer, who would you rather prefer? Somebody who's got advanced skills, 25 years in the industry, or somebody like me with 3 years and who's only just setting out? So, it's obvious which the choice would be, but it doesn't necessarily help people such as myself and others at college who are now finding themselves in the very real position of unemployment.
The Royal British Legion building in Halifax is a listed building in need of major renovation in order to save it. Built in the early 19th century, it was originally used as a farmer's cottage and stable before coming in possession of the Legion in the 1940s. They used it as their local base from which to administer welfare services to ex-service personnel. Over the years, the building had deteriorated and was in need of some serious repairing. Steve Oxley, who was a local expert in traditional painting, decorating and colouring techniques, was approached to advise on repainting the interior.
I first heard about the British Legion project when I was lecturing at the local college, and the idea was to get some students down there, just put a lick of paint over it, and it just grew incrementally from there, from a quick coat of paint to we can't really paint the walls because they're in such bad condition, and then there's no point in doing that because the roof's leaking anyway, and then the walls are falling down and the plaster's coming off. So from that initial idea of just a quick gloss over to make it habitable, it became a total refurbishment of the whole building. This is a bit much to tackle on my own, is this? I thought, who do I ring? And when you've been self-employed for many years, you develop a network of contacts and people who have capabilities. So I thought, this is one for Robert, is this?
Robert Sikora has been a manufacturer for 24 years, specialising in manufacturing components for shop fronts and interiors of historical buildings.
Yeah, I calculate we've been working together nigh on 20 years.
Near on 20 years. 40 years between us, 40 years experience between us.
Yeah, we're still looking good.
Yeah.
Because no work had been done on the building since the 1930s, it now falls short of modern requirements, including access. This meant that major funding would be needed in order to save it. Fortunately, it was eligible to receive a grant from the Heritage Lottery Fund because of the building's listed status.
We first heard about the British Legion building when you, Robert and Steve Oxley got in touch with the council trying to get grant aid for the building, to go for a full renovation of the building.
The council would offer the British Legion a grant covering half the cost on the condition that the Legion themselves found the other half. But in order to get the half from the council, there were certain conditions we had to meet for them.
One of the criteria for the Heritage Lottery Fund money is to get vacant floor space back into use and improve the public realm as well as all the conservation work. With this building in particular, it's basically a big storeroom. It's not very usable space. There's a few small structural problems. It needs a lot of tidying up, and we intend to really make something of it and make it a really good community building.
Another significant section in the grant, or qualifications for the grant, was providing an educational aspect.
In the British Legion scheme, we intend to have students on site quite often, including tradesmen, apprentices, interior design students. We want as many as possible, just to learn craftsmanship and learn about heritage and get enthusiasm for it.
With the grant secured, the restoration of the Royal British Legion building will provide a fantastic opportunity for many students to gain experience and training that will be vital for their careers. In February 2009, Robert and Steve met with Mark Warren, the client's representative at the local branch, to discuss the plans for the building. This is an essential part of the process in making sure the client's ideas match up with what is actually possible to achieve with the building structure. One of the main changes discussed was transforming 3 of the rooms into one large meeting room.
So that area there becomes this one big area here. Is that what you would like us to achieve for?
That's what we need to do, yeah.
Steve, do you see any trouble? I think, do you agree that these are quite easily removable, these?
Those will just be hopefully stud partition walls, and we can turn that into one large function room in the back there. And then I think what we're going to look at doing is increasing the size of the kitchen to facilitate catering and things like that in the back there.
The kitchen's inadequate as the size it is now to put in all the things that we need. And the toilet area is much too large for one toilet. Yeah. So we're hoping to remove the existing toilet, put a new one in near to where it was before, and put another new one for disabled people in the empty space at the end. Should be ample room to do that.
Yeah.
And then that disability, provision is going to be extended with a ramp to the back, so people can come in wheelchairs or if they have difficulty walking. And then hopefully we can achieve flat levels at the front as well and avoid having a ramp, so people can access through the front doors in wheelchairs and things.
We need to have 2 offices because we need to have an office private for confidential interviews and that kind of thing. And 1 office come reception area.
On the design side, we've got the considerations of it being a listed building in terms of finishing it, and in the rear here we want to keep it pretty much in the agricultural style that it was first built in, but the heritage people seem pretty much okay with the fact that in the computer room we can go very modern and up to date. And then here we have some existing Art Deco features in the welfare room, which we're going to try. Well, we've been asked to retain those features really, so we're trying to have a sympathetic scheme good for that area.
Yeah, that was the English Heritage Regional Office at York. They did insist this ceiling was kept, like you say, because it's a domed Art Deco ceiling. So we'll work a scheme around that, a finished scheme around that.
Yeah, sounds good.
The plans agreed upon were to restructure the layout of the building into 3 main rooms. A welfare office that retained its Art Deco features, a modern-looking IT room, and a large meeting room that could hold up to 60 people. This could be used by many organisations, such as the local cadets, the Army, and the RAF Association, all of whom are without a suitable meeting place to use. Several local charities could also use it for training courses, but the main use will be to provide modern facilities to aid the welfare and interests of those who have served in the armed forces, which spans thousands of people across many generations.
Our activities take in people from 18 to 90. One of our members is 91.
Is it?
So yeah. And the youngest serviceman we've had in the last year or so is 18. So we hope to build it up to something useful around here, in contrast to everything else that's falling down.
In March 2009, the plans were submitted to local authority planning and building control departments. By August, the plans were approved and work commenced on the site. Robert and Steve began approaching the local colleges to get the students involved in restoring the building.
As it was predominantly on the outside and architectural masonry work, we approached York College, the Masons at York, as they're an actual heritage college. Hi Paul, pleased to see you again.
Hi Steve, right?
Paul, pleased to meet you.
Right?
I am very well, thank you.
Well done, coming right? Yeah, okay.
My name's Paul Hill. I'm the programme leader of stonemasonry at York College. I really enjoy it because it's a unique opportunity to promote one of the oldest crafts there is in the historical department. So we attract a lot of students from the north of England, being the northwest, the northeast, the sort of Midlands, right up to the borders. They all come down to the college.
I got into stonemasonry purely by chance, really. It was after my A-levels and I was supposed to be going to university to study French and history, and because I didn't want to stay at home with my mum and dad for the whole of the summer, I took myself off to France under the guise of learning the language, and one of the cheapest ways to do that was to volunteer on a project doing dry stone walling and kind of restoration work. And really it's something I didn't expect to like it whatsoever, but kind of went out nonetheless, and once I got there I found that I took to it really well and really enjoyed it, and all kind of came from there really.
A large part of stonemasonry or any craft is what your hands know how to do, not what you know how to do out of a textbook. Because I've read stuff out of some of my stonemasonry books and it's boggled me until I've actually done it and actually learned how to do it hands-on sort of thing.
Doing them by hand, you see, is the slowest method of doing it, but it gives you that sort of skill base of knowing what to take off first.
Yeah.
Even when you're taking it off with an angle grinder or a cutter, you're using the same processes.
And you see, if you mastered the hand skills, you can always complement it with machine skills, but you can't do it the other way around.
No.
If you're a machine person and you have the hand skills, you're stuck, aren't you? So how's it going today, Adam? Are you, what is it you're working on?
I'm just doing the carving in the middle of the centrepiece for the tracery window at the moment.
Right.
Who did you say it was based on?
It's based on a project manager I know from over Halifax way. Yeah. It's supposed to be an imp, but just in a slightly more modern angular style is the carving, because everything you see tends to be very round, organic shapes in carving, and gets a bit boring to some extent.
So really, it's all traditional Gothic, and you're putting your particular slant on it, aren't you?
The actual masonry is all done to the templates that are made up for the whole window, and then the carving is more sort of your own depiction of something appropriate to that period. So you can't carve like a stormtrooper's face in it or a football badge. It's got to be something fitting with that period.
Like Steve, the project manager.
Yeah, like Steve, the project manager. Yeah, but done in an impish style instead of.
No, I can see the resemblance actually. It's quite uncanny. It's actually quite uncanny. Adele, let's look at the worst case situation. What happens if you make a mistake and it goes wrong?
No, the only time when you really make big mistakes is if you're distracted by something, like people coming around interviewing you.
With Adele, I think she liked to see the fact that she could learn a lot from us, couldn't she, really? A lot from Steve and a lot from myself, and we guided her a little bit, and she could show us what she could do, because I think underneath it all, when you scratch the surface with Adele, she's quite a bit of a show-off, and so any chance she's got of showing what skills she has with hammer and chisel, she takes it, and the evidence is there to see.
Yeah. What do you think she could learn from you?
Well, she could learn
charisma.
Well, she could learn
wit.
Those things as well, but she could probably, well, let me think, what could she learn from me?
Not really sure how to answer that.
Before the York students could visit the British Legion site, work had to be done to rebuild the roof to make the building weathertight. Due to conservation policy, all of the original slates were reused as long as they were fit for use. The roof was also fitted with slate lacks, new insulation, ridge tiles and coping stones, along with a lime-based render for a new section of the wall. Following its completion, 12 masonry students from York College came down to the site in October 2009.
It was part of a scheme where the college took us out to visit a different site, primarily for the purpose of seeing how a project's organised and run, and how all the various trades are kind of interlinked together to pull off a restoration project.
I mean, we went and had a look around the site for a day first and found out everything that was going on there. And
So why do you think they would have two doors on this wall? You know, why do you need two pretty close together to come into here?
These are
through a hall.
Two separate rooms.
Yeah, that's what we think. 2 separate rooms here. Yeah, exactly.
Steve sort of talked us through not only the masonry aspects, he's also shown us all the other sort of schedules of work that's been going on.
When you come out to a place like this, it gives you a better insight with more details of the jobs and specifications.
As a tradesperson or across people that you do have to take into consideration like the budgets and where the money's coming from and sort of how to make both the client happy and English Heritage and the people who are going to use this place as well. Like the British Legion, you know, there's all these people who need to use this place as a functional thing, so it's not just an ancient monument.
On the project, they were involved in some of the tooling on the coping stones on the outside wall. They're also involved in lifting and fixing some of the sills in with supervision from one of the masons on site.
And then had a look at all the stonework that had been done already on the front of it, all the ashlar work and stuff that had been tooled.
Here you are, you're out on site, it's the only piece of stone you've got, so you can't smash the corner off, otherwise you're in a big pickle. So I think, again, there's a little bit of pressure for them there to do a good job.
That's the best way to learn, really, is actually going and learning how it's done on site and actually getting your hands doing something, really.
I think they got something out of it. I mean, you've interviewed some of them, so hopefully they were positive about the experience, apart from me getting lost driving around, but that...
Another group of students to be invited to the site were from Bradford College. These 25 interior design students were given the unique opportunity to use the British Legion as a live project for them to work on.
It's absolutely imperative for our students, not only just the experience, but to actually fulfil the requirements of some of the units that we do in the qualification, to have experience of real projects. And
for everything we do here, we try and simulate a proper studio environment, so it's a professional environment for the students. We set them briefs that reflect reality, but it's not real. So when we actually get something real in, it's a fantastic experience for them to go out there, deal with the client, actually measure up, design, then present everything to people, because it's completely different in reality.
And when we first went to see the building that we'd be designing for, it were quite rough, no paint and stuff on, so it gave us an idea of the bare building that we'd be working with and the actual space that we'd be given. And it helped us to imagine what we could design instead of having stuff already in.
You can just see like the processes of what's going on, and then you can base your work around the history, and if you come out and see, you can see like the size to scale and what you've got to work with.
To be honest, I'm quite, past projects have been mainly the new buildings, so I think it's quite interesting to come here and try it with the old ones for a change, so it's going to be interesting.
Well, it's the history of Britain, isn't it? It's what makes Britain nice. It's good to restore the old, because the modern stuff we're building now is just not pretty enough, is it?
I was kind of looking around thinking, what could I design out of it, and sort of what could I do with the space and stuff, and what would go where, already sort of preconceiving in a way.
It's going to show us what we will actually be doing after the course and get us prepared for it, for the real world. And it's going to be fun. I can't wait.
The Bradford students would have 1 month to create their designs for the interior before presenting them to Robert and Steve. Meanwhile, a young apprentice named Ben was working on site. Ben worked for the local joinery firm who were subcontracted for the British Legion job.
I got into joinery by going to the construction academy in Mythenroyd 2 days a week while I was at school, and I enjoyed doing joinery, and I did other building trades as well, like plastering and painting and decorating, but mostly the one I enjoyed is joinery, and that's how I picked it up. I found out about the British Legion job was through my boss, and he told me all about it, and we just cracked on with it and started from scratch.
What contribution Ben made was he was very hands-on, and he fitted most of the new interior doors in the building.
Don't really get jobs like these. It's the first big job I've been on since I've been at the company here.
Yeah. I did find it hard, but I had my team of mates to help me along. I weren't struggling, they were always there telling me what to do if I needed any help.
When you're at college, you've got a proper wall to screw in, to chisel in, so it's easy at college, but when you're on site, it's different. One of the builders actually fitted the frames, and it's not square, so I've had to plane down the door to fit the existing frame, so that's what I'm doing at the moment.
Yeah, a good lad was Ben. He was, he got on with his work, and he drank a lot of tea, and got on with his work again, and got thirsty again, and it proceeded that way. And in the end, we had 4 or 5 doors in place, and no tea left.
I fitted some of the doors and door frames and all the ironmongery on the doors. I fitted most of the glass as well into the doors, and I did a bit of boxing around the pipes and all the skirting in the building as well.
Ben could be said to be typical of his generation in that they often don't think of old buildings because there's something that's associated with the past and the past gone.
And they're just there, aren't they?
They're just there, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, just there in the background.
It's different working in a building like this. It is old, but you've got to refurbish it and keep it in its history. Yeah.
But once you get into close quarter combat with them and you actually work on them and you spend time in them, that's the way to begin to appreciate them, and that's what we began to see happening with Ben in a way.
Another apprentice working on site was 16-year-old Scott. Scott works with his dad, Steve, who was the electrical contractor for the Legion project.
Well, working with Dad, there's a lot of banter. He's most of the times on his phone and I'm doing all the work.
He nicks me pack up.
Here was an example in current times of how it used to be done in the past when these buildings were put up, where there would be father and son teams throughout the industry.
I currently do 2.5 days a week at our college. That's throughout a school term, and then the other 2.5 days I have off, I work with my dad.
Well, I mean, obviously Scott's my son, and I take a great eye in his training, and I want him, and we discuss things, don't we? We discuss why we do jobs. You know, when we do something simple that I do naturally, we discuss then why we've done it that way. Just and it's to help him forward. You know, I want him to be the best electrician he can be.
Well, the first time I came was just as I was about to start the first fix. The first fix means the first part of the installation where you do all the wiring, put your fixture boxes to the wall and put capping over the cables.
The features that was unearthed, like this fireplace, the metal doors, it put all new challenges for us as modern electrical engineers for what we could put into the building but still retain the old features within the building. I just found it interesting that with the building, I mean, just the unique part of it, just even down to cutting boxes in, how much harder it is cutting into this stuff than it is into normal brick.
It took a long time.
Yeah.
Today what we're doing is we're actually taking delivery of the very top course of stones for this ornamental frontage on the listed building. We've worked up the building through the weeks of the restoration, replacing stones that have been eroded, and the final part, the crowning glory of the wall, are the very heavy stones on the top. Now, these serve two purposes. They're both ornamental in that you can see the middle stone in particular has been hand-tooled by a master mason, but they also act as a structural element in the job because they run a complete width of the building, and technically it's called a blocking course, and the weight of those stones counterbalances the weight of the layer of stones underneath it, which project from the building. So if those weren't there, the stones that are projecting would tend to want to lean forward and actually come away from the building itself. The reason they've all had to be replaced is that they crumbled so much that there was nothing worth saving. We always try and keep the original fabric of the building as much as we can. but these had really gone beyond anything. They were mainly just dust and bits of stone up here. The original shapes were gone. There's just a little bit of one stone left where we could see what the tooling had been, and that allowed the master mason to faithfully reproduce that.
At Bradford College, the interior design students were preparing for their presentations.
When we initially came back from the first visit with you, we drew up like timetables, timescales to keep, to the deadline, which proved really helpful.
I prepared for my presentation by just putting my work together and making it look presentable to show the people that I was showing and make it clear to them what my designs were going to be.
It were like 3 different projects in one, because we had the specific designs for each one. One could be more modern, one were Art Deco.
Researching different styles was, very useful, and being an interior designer involves a lot of, especially postmodern work. It's relating back to old designs and etc.
Before the presentations took place, Robert and Steve were given a chance to see some of their students' designs they had created with 3D modelling software.
Caitlin, are these some of the drawings from the British Legion job and illustrations you did?
Yeah, this is the meeting room. Basically the design is just the shape of a poppy, and then it's quite a good shape for a table because it's circular and it's just got a bit going off to resemble the stalk, and then that holding it together in the middle is sort of the black dot in the poppy.
The students presented their ideas for the interior of the Legion to Robert and Steve. The top 3 designs would receive a cash prize. However, only 1 out of the 25 students would have elements of their design used for the British Legion building.
And normally on that course they wouldn't have the opportunity to give a presentation to an actual client.
That's
right. I think some of them found it rather daunting first, and intimidating.
And the thing that you never appreciate as a student who's not worked on a real job is that one-to-one with your client. How nerve-wracking that is for them when they have to present work. It's all right presenting work to us as course tutors and to their peer group. They get used to doing that. But to present it to somebody when it's a real-life project, it brings it home to them how important it is to work on your presentations and to make sure they're effective, because basically they're selling themselves, and I think that really came through with the first time we presented to you. They just needed to be so much more efficient and to really push their ideas forward.
I enjoyed it because I got a chance to speak about it quite openly and just present it in a way that I've never presented it, and I was quite nervous, but as you go through each page it just sort of rolls off your tongue what your intentions and stuff are.
We were very impressed, weren't we, with the level of work?
Very impressed, it was very good.
Yeah.
The winners of the competition would be revealed in March 2010. At the start of the new year, work on the British Legion building was heading towards its final stages. Adam, Dave and Tom from your college were invited back to the site to do some paid work on hand tooling the front wall coping stones. Inside, Scott and Steve were adding the finishing touches to the electrics. All of Scott's work here goes towards his MVQ level 3 as site evidence.
Hi Scott, could you just explain what you're doing here?
Yeah, I'm just fixing the sockets in the IT room.
We discussed the fact that it would be just a one-off job, and I say the unique things that was within the building that we had to incorporate our electrics into.
Is that an exact technique you're doing there?
Now it's putting the lidding back on.
Well, originally they wanted spotlights, but the spotlights created far too many shadows, and it wouldn't give the building much of a use as what it's got now with the light levels that we have. It just wouldn't make this building suitable for a meeting room. It was more of a functional change, wasn't it, to make it more...
Yeah. Well, it's a building regulation now, isn't it?
What we're going to do is once these sockets are energised, this is a small little portable testing piece of equipment.
This will show that Scott has correctly wired the socket up.
Yeah. By these illuminating lights. So what happens if it's a red light?
He gets the backhand off me.
If it's 2 green lights, it'll just show like I've wired it all up quickly. If you get a red light, that's where you get a fault, but it seems all alright.
It's March 2010 and work on the Royal British Legion site has been completed. The building was handed back to the Halifax Committee, and Sue Oakley from Calderdale Council came back to see the finished job.
Yeah, the facade of the building is the part of the building that has the most impact in the townscape, which is why we wanted to concentrate so much on getting the stonework repaired, getting the doors refurbished, the windows, new railings.
Because it was in a really bad way, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
I would say about 2/3 of it at least was really decayed almost beyond recognition, wasn't it?
They'd actually patch repaired it in cement. You can't repair old buildings in cement. You shouldn't use cement mortar or cement render because water gets trapped behind it and it ends up blowing the stone apart. As you can see on the copings on the boundary wall, a lot of this tooling was done by the students from York, and it's very impressive. They've done a lovely job of it. The old Georgian sash windows have been refurbished. Some of the original glass is still in them, which is nice to see. And we were very keen not to lose the original glass, the original timber work, and we splice repaired where it needed it.
Yeah,
but tried to keep it as original as possible.
Yeah.
And if you see the windows here, it's got very thin glazing bars. This is an original piece of stone. You can tell just by the age and the slight delamination and the erosion on the detailing on the tooling.
Yeah.
And they've repaired it, putting in new stone slips, which are about 2-3 inches thick. And they've hand-tooled it to match the existing style of the tooling. And they've tried to match the stone as well by going to local quarries. If you see the frontage, it used to be concrete, the levels used to be all over the place.
That's
and
right.
It was a right mess. It was absolutely terrible for disabled access. But it's completely been levelled off now. The tarmac's been sloped and they've put York stone paving back in, reinstated all the lovely old features. It just makes for a lovely finished job at the front.
So as you can see, we've created the disabled ramp at the back of the building, and that gets rid of all those undulations and steps and hazards that there were. So it's come out pretty well, hasn't it?
Oh, it's made it a lot safer and it's tidied it up.
We've got part of the community use side of it, which is the computerised room, the IT room. So what do you think to the installation now?
Yeah, ideal, brilliant. It's good. It means that people can start coming in working soon. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what we wanted to achieve.
Good.
What I think is really lovely in this building is the way the trusses have been exposed. You've got these lovely big traditional queen post trusses that have been stripped down to reveal the lovely old timber. Yeah. This was a lucky one. This was a very lucky find.
It was indeed.
If you remember, it used to be an original, old 1930s style fireplace.
Yeah.
It's difficult in conservation to know when to draw the line and when to take things out, where to take it back to. But as it happens, there was a beautiful old hopefully original fireplace here, which has been tidied up a little bit, but no, that's nice. Heritage can be very subjective.
Yeah.
Some people think you stop at the 1930s and keep that feature in, other people think you go further back.
Yeah.
The more you dig into things, the more you lose. So you have to be very careful, know when to draw the line.
Yeah. As you were saying earlier, so this building was sort of like slapped onto the side of Hopwood Hall next door, and we've exposed the coins, which are the predominant cornerstones here of Hopwood Hall next door.
Slapped on?
Yeah, it's a technical term. It's the one bit of evidence possible that we might have very points towards animals coming in is we did find a dead horse, or the remains of a dead horse.
In one of the front offices?
In one of the front offices, a skeleton.
It seems a little bit strange.
Yeah.
At least it wasn't a dead body.
Yes.
The students from Bradford College came back to the site to find out who won the competition for the design of the interior.
The competition wasn't I wasn't really thinking about the competition. I know that sounds a bit weird seeing as I won it, but I wasn't thinking I would win it, and I was sort of trying to make my work stand out, but not in that way kind of thing. It was just sort of for me to feel I did good.
Coming third, I were actually quite happy because there were so many of us doing it. We're just glad to think that after putting all that work in, I got something to show from it.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, my best friend's first, so I'm not bothered. I'm fine, I'm happy. No, I'm not jealous.
As a result from having that read out to me and them giving me feedback about my work, it gave me tons of confidence about how my work looked and stuff, because I just didn't really think that they would look at it like that.
All the designs were wonderful. It was a very difficult choice, and I'm glad it wasn't mine to make. And I'm sure without the design students that we wouldn't have got the outcome that we have.
When the Bradford students came back to the site of the British Legion, we spent quite a bit of time setting up a demonstration. The demonstrations were of wood graining. I got Bernard involved, who's been my mentor for many years, and Bernard likes graining oak, so Bernard did a demonstration of oak graining.
It isn't in a straight line, it's blended in, and that's how you do it with these.
Then after Bernard, I did a demonstration of feathered mahogany. Then the students were invited to have a go themselves, which they did, and I think they got quite a bit of enjoyment out of that.
Steve, the other project manager, he's grained it up using one of his skills to make it look like a really interesting, attractive veneer.
Yeah. We also set up a demonstration of gold leaf work, and the students were also invited to have a go at that. And gold obviously is a naturally interesting material for most people, and they're quite fascinated by it. Having finished the project, I think it's gone remarkably well. We've had a really good conclusion at the end.
The contrast in the building from now to from before it's just unbelievable. I mean, it's clean, it's modern-ish, you know, but still keeps all of the old features that we uncovered during the build.
But the building itself, yes, it's going to be fine for quite a number of years now.
Just because a building is classed as historical or has a listing does not mean to say it's frozen in time. Alterations can be made to suit future plans and future needs.
The thing I gained more were the knowledge of English heritage, what sort of stuff you have to keep, how much you can change a building.
Of course, it's not an easy process, but with the correct guidance, it can be achieved.
I mean, British Legion initially had an asset that became a liability, and now it's back to being an asset again.
We asked Caitlin to come down to the site specifically to see how her designs and ideas had been put into practice.
Well, this room, it's the exact colours I used. I've just stuck to sort of a black and a pink, so that's sort of typical Art Deco colours. And then for that wall, it was a teal colour, but you sort of moulded those colours together and just decided to put it around here, which I think works really well.
And the importance of this is the fact that it became real. It's a real job in the real world. And Caitlin had the satisfaction of seeing her concepts taken from the drawing board, from the computer, and actually turned into a real living interior. Does it mean a lot to you to see your work
it's fantastic,
finished?
Yeah, it's really good.
Caitlin and Anna were given the opportunity to try their artistic skills on paintings inside the British Legion. And with the help of Steve, Caitlin and Anna painted two well-known symbols of the British Legion.
Do you know how to spell it?
Do I know how to spell it?
Interior designers are used to seeing their work applied by others. This was a chance for them to apply it for themselves.
Thank you. I'm very
You haven't seen mine yet?
I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to see it.
Ah, cool.
That's beautiful.
Not only has this project shown how you can bring together people from various different skills, colleges and backgrounds, it also has the potential to reach an international scale. Sharon and Sue from Bradford College are visiting professors with 2 universities in South Korea whose students come over to the UK twice a year.
If they'd have been over here when the British Legion project were going on, we would have definitely involved them because, I mean, just from a basic level for them, they love anything to do with old architecture, so they would have really taken that project on board.
Yeah, I think it'd be really useful for other projects to kind of start up similar to the one with the British Legion, just purely because it gives you an extra kind of skill, I suppose, in just looking at the overall view of the project instead of just focusing on your one kind of almost trade-specific focus, really.
From working on the British Legion project in Halifax, that's enabled us to start our own business and actually get going. We'd been trying to start a business for quite a while, but never actually got us heads around it properly, and then because we got offered the paid work from the main contractor on the Halifax job, that gave us the money from that job to actually register the company legally and have our first job in the books and have something going through already, and that just kind of got the ball rolling.
And this is an example of how young people need a start, a bit of encouragement, and we could do this in a financial sense. It wasn't a case of just saying, here's some money, get on with it. They actually worked for it, did a great job, but ploughed the money, invested the money back in themselves.
From that first main contractor that we, when we did the work for him at Halifax, we've restored a couple of buildings in Leeds, made a sundial, done some massive gate posts, and we're restoring a big crematorium in Leeds in the next couple of months, just off that one contact that we made through the Halifax job. So it's surprising how one contact can find you quite a lot of work, and then off each bit of work you do for them, you can find more and more work off of that from other sources as well.
We're quite proud to think that our job was the little catalyst that got them going.
In the UK, there are 5 million buildings built before 1919 using traditional construction methods. Of these, 500,000 are listed, and they all need maintaining.
Young people today get a really bad press, and it's quite often because they aren't allowed to do the sorts of things they want to do. Getting them involved in projects like the British Legion building and restoration in general gives them a feeling of self-worth. It gives them a pride in what they do. And if it could be replicated over the nation, it would go a long way to reducing, youth difficulties, unemployment. So it's certainly worthwhile.
I mean, you're always hearing on the radio and the telly that there aren't enough traditional craftspeople available. But there are plenty of people out there who do want to do this type of work and who are actually very skilled at doing this type of work. And I think more than anything, it's about kind of creating opportunities to put their skills to use.
Oh, it definitely benefit more students if there's more heritage jobs like this being done all over the country, because it could be run as student-based. Students training on not just because it's an old building, but in the construction industry.
It's wonderful that the students get some benefit from what they do, but the benefit for the community is immense because we get to restore and keep the wonderful buildings that have been left to us by our forebears, and they are preserved for future generations. It's truly wonderful, and the students really do push and get involved, and I think they probably feel better for it. So nationally that would be a great bonus.
I think it would be great if there was more projects like the one that I did on the British Legion.
If sort of workplaces can be encouraged to take students in and involve them in things with a financial incentive or a financial incentive to the student, it would be brilliant.
Apprentices don't earn a lot of money anyway, so it's only fair that they should actually learn how to do a trade and get a lot of practice as part of them not being paid very much. I think we both want to give apprentices a very hands-on way of learning the trade sort of thing. That's definitely the way to go as far as we're concerned.
I think in ignoring these crafts and ignoring these trades, we're kind of denying a bit of who we are really.
So now that we've finished this project and it's come to an end, what have we learned from it? Well, for me, it's the fact we've managed to get so many students out of their college environment and bring them here into a real live working project where not only can they sharpen the skills in reality as opposed to theory, but they also get the chance to see all the other trades working and how they all interrelate in a proper sequence to make sure this project does get completed. As well as that, we've found that they've been able to learn skills that transport into the commercial world. For example, how to meet commercial deadlines, how to
listen to clients' requirements, take those briefs down and incorporate them into the schemes that they're working on, even as you've seen how to start their own businesses. Now, this has been a pilot scheme here in Halifax, quite small scale, but we feel there are lessons here that can be rolled out to a commercial scale. So for example, if we get business students involved, advertising students, marketeers, strategists, we can work out what businesses can be started in the renovated buildings once they've been completed, so that these businesses create employment, generate wealth and opportunities for quite a lot of people. Now, we've shown it can happen here, so let's make it happen so that the heritage industry becomes a centre of success nationally.